Jill has a lot of experience in this area. She helps addicts in the well-known Priory, and she has also been doing meditation herself with Brahma Kumaris for the last 5 or 6 years. So she has a breadth of experience to share. But she's in the role this afternoon of making sure that our 3 very different panelists are able to share their views with you. Jill, will you come up, please, and take over so you can invite everyone up? Thanks, Jill. She's also on our planning committee and helps get all these programs together. So if you have any ideas for speakers or ideas, Jill will be one of the people you can give your suggestions to. Welcome, Jill, and thank you.
Thanks very much, Davina. We'll get a well-earned break now. So it's my privilege and honour to, as Davina says, host the panellists here this afternoon who will give us their insights on beyond addiction and dependency and what if it's possible to be free from alcohol and drug addiction. So, without any further ado, I'd like to invite Simonon in a moment. He's going to come to the stage, and Simonon works with vulnerable adults. He's got an experience of a variety of recovery programs, and he writes articles and books under the umbrella of a website called The Spirit of the Rainbow. So, thank you very much, Simonon. Also going to invite my good friend Terry to come up, and Terry's a nanny by day and a personal trainer by night, and I'm assured that she doesn't have an umbrella or a brown bag with lots of things in it. She's also the school's liaison officer for Alcoholics Anonymous North London, and she tells me that she's a human at large, so if you've seen any wanted notices for humans, here's one of them. And last but not least is Neil, who hails from Chelmsford. Neil runs his own business, and he's been practicing meditation for about the last 12 years, so he's going to bring the meditative element to this afternoon's discussion. Each of the panellists are going to speak for approximately 15 minutes each, as I said, on their own experience of what freedom from alcohol and drugs, is it possible, means to them within the concept of beyond addiction and recovery. At the end of each speaker's short talk, which is in the practice of the Brahma Kumaris here, we just have a minute of silence just to so that we can absorb what's been said, and then we'll pass to the next speaker. There will be an opportunity for questions and answer session at the end when each of the speakers have spoken. So if you find yourself getting any burning questions that you want to ask, but it's not quite the question and answer session, then just make a note of your question and we'll be more than happy to take them at the end. So with that, I'm going to pass over to Simonon. You've got the next 15 minutes to share your insights with us on today's topic. So over to you.
Okay, thank you, and thank everybody who's come here today. My name is Simonon. I'll begin by telling you that what I'm about to say is unique, because I'm the only one who's lived this particular path of recovery. It's a way, it's not the way. So what I'm offering you is a little bit like a picnic or a buffet. There may be things in it that you like and can take, and stuff you don't like and you can ignore. It's very much in that spirit. So I'll begin at the beginning. When I first arrived on this planet as a small little baby, my earliest thoughts, to use the word from Star Trek, is beam me up, Scotty. Okay? I found this planet really hard to be on. Okay? Nothing came naturally to me. I don't know if you've ever been on a dance floor and you can notice people who naturally know how to dance and people who naturally don't. Well, I was like one of those people who naturally don't, but it wasn't so much about being able to dance, it was about how to relate to people, how to be in my own skin, okay? So I spent my life trying to be somewhere else, someone else, at some other time, okay, in a galaxy far, far away. And as a teenager, I found, first of all, drugs, principally LSD, and then alcohol and various other not so wonderful things. And I just spent a lot of time trying to escape, not being me, not being here, not being now. My first liberation, or act of liberation from this cycle of addiction was actually through a spiritual program, which I spent about 10 years. It was a wonderful program, it was a great spiritual teacher, great enlightenment, and I underwent a spiritual awakening. And for about 8 of those 10 years, I stopped using drugs and I stopped drinking, and that was fantastic. What I found for me was missing was the support of a group and the love, really, I needed and support of fellow addicts. And so, although I had removed the anaesthetic, the pain was still there, and I didn't really know what to do with it. And one day, it just went boom, and I went back into the darkness, went back into what I call shadowlands. And I spent about 4 or 5 years there, and it kind of got worse and worse. And then the pain got so great that I got involved into 12-step movement. And some of you know, and I went to a variety of different 12-step movements. I ended up in something called Humans Anonymous, which deals with all the different addictions, and has also incorporated many of the changes in people's understanding of addiction that had taken place over the last sort of 50, 60 years. I also used every possible spiritual tool I could find. I went to see healers. I had something called auric cleansing, spiritual response therapy, you name it, I did it. I did everything I could possibly find because I never, ever, ever wanted to go back to that place again. But there's something even more important than this, because for me, liberation from addiction is not simply about not doing things. It's not simply about not drinking or not using drugs or not gambling or not whatever. It is about positively deciding to engage with life. That means engaging with other people, it means engaging with work, it means engaging with paying bills, it means engaging with where I live, all the things which I found so difficult. For me, what I find difficult is the ordinary stuff of life, okay? Getting up, going to work, doing stuff, dealing with this, dealing with that. And I watch with envy how so many people seem to be able to do this without thinking, but for me it's a major struggle. So that willingness to engage with life is absolutely key, and it challenges me every day. It's challenging me right now, okay, even getting here. What is really important then for me is to have a high ideal, something that will fill the hole that addiction has left behind. And what is this high ideal? It's going to be different for every person. For me, it is very, very clear to build the kingdom of heaven on earth, starting with me. Starting with me, because I believe very firmly that every act that I take as an individual is connected to every act everyone else takes as an individual. So as I clean up my own life, as I improve my own life, as I allow that my spirit to express itself more fully, more freely in my life, then that impacts not just on me and those immediately around me, family, friends, workmates and so on, but across the planet. That is the wonder of the work of recovery. It impacts on people who I will never meet, who I will never know, but it creates a subtle healing atmosphere. And that for me is incredibly important to understand. The life that everybody in this room lives, including mine, is incredibly important to the planet. And for me, that's a very important understanding. I understand not everybody will share this belief, but for me, it's really important to understand. We build a better world starting with us, and it's really important that we do it because, for me, every act of kindness, every act of love, every act of forgiveness, that's an act that has a reverberation. It goes far beyond people that are immediately affected. I do not want you to think for a moment that I'm some kind of saint. I'm not. I mess up all the time. I'm a human being. In my work, I work with vulnerable teenagers. The first thing I say to them, I say, look, I'm a human being. I'm going to have good days, I'm going to have bad days. I guarantee you I'll say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, put my foot in it, forget to do something. And if that happens, I hope I say, I'm sorry. Okay? And it's about being fully human. About being fully, here's my French character, about being fully human. That's so important, okay, that I allow myself not to be a hero, not to be a perfect human being, not to be a saint, just to be a fully human being who's learning and growing. Welcome to evolution, okay, I believe that is inevitable. It is inevitable that we evolve, okay, so for me, we can evolve through pain or suffering, what I call the addiction of addictions, the crucifixion addiction. The refusal to get off the cross. In Christian teaching, Jesus was alive for 33 years. He taught for 3, I think spent 6 hours on the cross, 6 hours out of 33 years. But the way I lived my life, I just wouldn't get off the cross. Okay? And I think it's kind of understanding that addiction is some kind of denial of life, of being right here, right now, who I am, of all my stuff, all my baggage. I was thinking, actually earlier on today, of the history of my life, which is in what I'm wearing. Well, you can't see them, but I have ticker socks from Disneyland, which is part of my life. My t-shirt comes from Mongolia. There's all sorts of bits of me that I'm visible and invisible that I bring into this room, as everybody in this room is bringing in right now. That's fine. That's how it's meant to be. And if I can accept myself as I am, and embrace life, embrace myself, embrace the Spirit positively, then I can let go of all this rubbish of addictive behaviour, which incidentally can take many, many forms, and I've found now, it's more than 20 years now since I last had a drug or a drink, but I get addicted to other stuff, less dangerous stuff, and I need to work through that too. So it's an ongoing process. That's fine. It's evolution. That's how it's meant to be. Okay? So for me, addiction is the start of the journey, okay? A journey towards what you might call your higher self. Units Anonymous, they call it the loving spirit. Some people call it God. Some people call it the inner self. It doesn't matter. They're just names. But the journey which we take, we will always meet in the same place. So unusually for me, because I was saying to my colleague Neil here, I'd fallen in love with my voice at a very early age. Unusually for me, I'll shut up now.
We're just going to take 1 minute so that we can just absorb and digest that. Okay. We're going to move straight on to Terry. He's now... But Terry, I can introduce you again, just to remind us that Terry's a nanny by day and a personal trainer by night. She's also the school liaison officer for Alcoholics Anonymous, covering schools and colleges in North London and giving talks to young children and young adults. And she's our human at large, so she has that freedom which she's now going to share with us.
Thanks, Jill.
Terry. Thanks.
Thanks. My name is Terry, and if you were watching me at all instead of Simon when he was speaking, you'll have seen me doing a lot of the nodding, like the dog in the back of the car, nodding my head. So what he said, really, it's just that simple. But my take, I suppose, on it is slightly different. Not even slightly different, just maybe in addition to. The question that we ask is, freedom from drugs and alcohol, is it possible? And that's the question that we're here talking about. And when the question was first asked, my immediate response was, yes, absolutely, I'm living proof. But actually, then I kind of thought, well, yes it is, and yes I am. And I'm one of those conditional people that Davida talked about earlier. I'm one of those who says that, actually, yes, I do have freedom. As long as I continue to do the things that keep me in a fit spiritual condition. I remember hearing a man say, it was the difference between being in the habit of not picking up a drink and being in a fit spiritual condition, or sobriety, the demented or the contented kind. And I really understood that, absolutely. And then when we talked about what is addiction, I suddenly thought, actually, for me it was that searching. It was that endless searching for fulfillment. I always knew, I've heard various people talk about feeling that they didn't belong, or they didn't fit in, or they weren't quite right. That's not my experience. My experience is that I felt something was missing. Absolutely, something was missing. And I spent a very long time looking for lots of different things. The very first addiction I ever had was books, in an escape from various hideousness at home. And so it's a way of escaping, yes, but it's also a way of fulfilling something. I would have said absolutely that I needed to find something that would fulfill me. And actually, I searched in lots of different places. Books and jobs and friendships and the arms of some men, drugs, alcohol, self-help books, exercise, different countries, because you might not have guessed it, but I'm not from around here. And the thing is that in the end, I not only stopped looking, but the only place I looked was the bottom of the glass. And I would have said to you that my soul felt, at the end, like a blackened, charred, cracked, and scarred bowl that had been unearthed in some archaeological dig. And that's how I felt inside. And I didn't want recovery because I knew that if you went to AA, they really were talking about not having a drink forever. They might talk about this one day at a time nonsense, but I knew really. So it was the last place on earth I ever wanted to be, because I could not imagine how that was going to work. I was frightened. I was frightened of being with a drink, and I was frightened of being without one. And I've come to understand that while I would have embraced death at the end, I would have moved heaven and earth to avoid pain, any kind of pain at all. And so I was, when I came in, I thought it meant when I came into recovery, I thought, okay, well, I'm obviously going to have to be good, I'm going to have to wear brown, I'm going to have to go to the library a lot, I'm clearly never going to have sex again, and it's going to suck. And I'm going to sit around a lot going, I mustn't drink, I mustn't drink, I mustn't drink, I mustn't drink. That for me is not freedom. And if that's what it was like, I'd have gone back out and started drinking again, because that sucks. That's not freedom from addiction. And what I found was a way of life. I found a way that works differently. I was thinking about this last night, and it's about change, it's about personal transformation, it's about growth, it's about progress. The words that we use, recovery, freedom, love, and spirituality, being imperfect, being human. And all those things are things that I've been able to find out about and apply now that I don't pick up a drink. I found out about a lot of this stuff before I put down the drink, but I couldn't do anything with it. I love what Simeon says about moving forward, engaging with life, because there's a lot of days I still want to just pull the duvet over my head and say, adios. And those days don't work out so well for me. Pajama days, they're not really so good for me. And they're certainly not good more than one at a time. But the beauty is I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. And I get to engage with life, as Simon talked about. I always thought that life was a struggle, that it was like pushing an elephant up a hill, dragging a locomotive behind me. And I wanted nothing more than to rest. And for me, the miracle is that I don't feel like that anymore. I really don't feel like that anymore. I want to live. And it's, I'm not saying that life has suddenly become really easy. It hasn't. But I know what to do. I have a spiritual toolkit. I have found ways. I have found it in people, the people that I surround myself with. I have found it in the program that I'm engaged with that is my design for living. And I found it in a connection with my higher power, who I choose to call God because it's an easier name than Percy. And I find that my relationship with my higher power has meant that I don't have to search anymore. I found it. And now all I have to do is keep growing with it. And it's a joy and a privilege to be able to do that. I found that I get to not only do the big stuff, the freedom to, oh my God, go scuba diving, which I wanted to do all my whole life, since I watched Shark Cousteau as a small child. But I get to do things like meet new people and talk to them and be interested. I get to have a relationship with my daughter, which I thought was quite frankly over. I get to give back what was given to me just by turning up and engaging with life. I thought it was going to be dull and boring and glum. I thought I was going to be boring and dull and glum if I didn't have a drink. Because, you know, I was never so clever, funny, and sexy when I was pissed. And what I've found is that I'm present. I'm absolutely present at all the time. What I get to do is I get to engage with the fear. I get to go through the fear. I get to go through the pain. Not feeling like it's going to kill me. Not feeling like I want to die. I was so overwhelmed with life at a very, very young age that I tried to commit suicide when I was 11. And I understand that desperation of there's no alternative, there's no way out, there are no other options. I remember that feeling. I'm so relieved that I wasn't successful. And I'm so grateful, I'm so profoundly grateful that I found a way that lets me live. Because what I found is that I don't want to die, I actually want to live. And it's a marvelous journey. What I've learned more than anything else is that I'm human, I'm imperfect, and I get to be on a journey. It's not about where I get to, it's about how I get there. And some days, I just need to pull the duvet around me and snuggle down and get a DVD on. But on days like today, I get to be a part of it, I get to be out here, and I get to be enjoying every moment as I'm in it. Thanks very much.
We'll pass over to Nell now, who's been, just a reminder, has been practicing meditation for the past 12 years and runs his own business.
I'm just going to move my chair around
Okay.
so I can see everyone.
Less than irritable and discontent.
Yeah, I don't want to get Nicola. Good afternoon. I feel really fortunate that I kind of found the Brahma Kumaris, or my mum found the Brahma Kumaris about 12, 13 years ago, and she wanted me to come along, and I said that I wouldn't get involved in that sort of mumbo jumbo. And I was sharing earlier that I thought spirituality was for women. Yeah? You had to wear lilac and have joss sticks and a little bell. But since coming on board and getting involved, because my mum wanted me to, because I was, just to give a little bit of my background, I know you won't believe this, with this angel sitting before you now, but yeah, I used to be a bit of a naughty boy. I started off, what was it, cigarettes, and then it was aerosol cans, and then speed, and then marijuana, and then whatever it was, acid, then ease, then coke, then crack. Luckily I didn't move into heroin because I didn't like needles, but drink didn't completely consume me, but I did like to use it to make sure those things went in. So yeah, I used to get in a bit of a mess, and we even used to joke sometimes when we went out, we're going to die tonight. Right. This is how out of our heads we used to get. I never forgot what I did that night. It's really funny. It's like you needed to remember to be able to compare the following morning. Yeah, I did this, I did that. And so yeah, I was to get myself in a right old state. And once I ended up on the rocks, as we called it, with the crack and stuff, that's when my life hit a bit of a kind of rock bottom, really, because I then lost the missus. I then was homeless again for about the fourth or fifth time. Then lost the support network of my friends because it's Neil the crackhead, the Ponce, never had any money. Yeah, no self-respect really. I remember once me and my friend, we locked ourselves in this flat where I was living, and we spent 3 days solid. We didn't leave this flat, and we had this nice big lump, and we just started working our way through it. We ran out of cigarettes on the third day. On the third day he rose again, so I left to go and get some cigarettes. And I needed a pedal bike bicycle to get to the garage to get cigarettes. And I couldn't do a full revolution on the pedals because I just knew my heart was going to pop if I put it under too much. So this is kind of the depths that I kind of got into. And when you run out, it's kind of, you start seeing it everywhere. It's like, but you'd be picking up breadcrumbs and thinking, oh, someone's dropped a bit, yeah, or a bit of a toenail or something. It was like, and then I then learned to leave the building where we were doing it and then have a walk. But then I'd start seeing bits by the curbside and, oh, everyone's on it, everyone's dropping it. Yeah? And this is the kind of, it became my life. Amazing. And then my best mate got murdered. He went to do a deal, and they injected him with ketamine and dumped his naked body into a ditch. And I think that was quite a pivotal moment for me to change. And change I did. And luckily, thanks to good old mum, she invited me along to the Brahma Kumaris one-day retreat in Oxford. And I went along there, and everyone knows my love of their biscuits, because I always talk about them. I will always go there again for their biscuits. Actually, we're going next weekend, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I went along with my mum more to keep her happy, really, because I don't spend that much time with her, I didn't then. I had this overwhelming experience that these people actually knew what they were kind of talking about. I didn't realise how far, similar to what's already been presented, I didn't realise how far I wanted to escape from, you can define it as reality, but from me. And it's actually quite difficult, isn't it, to escape yourself? Because everywhere I went, he went. So I think I just try to do so much, just numb myself out, that there was no association with this person that I really couldn't stand. And what I've learned through the practice with the Brahma Kumaris because I thought it would enhance my smoking experience, and it certainly did. But what I didn't realise was the more that I practised Raj Yoga meditation, as we call it, it actually dissolves on a very natural and almost subconscious level bad habits. So there I was, still smoking I'd stopped smoking the pipe and stuff, but I carried on smoking the wacky backy because one step at a time. And one day I got up and thought, I'll roll one, and just thought, actually, no, I'm not going to do it. And that was it. I haven't touched one since. However, 12 years on, I'm still meditating. So I think my addiction's been replaced. I wish I was addicted to meditating, because I'll probably do a bit more of it. But I certainly make sure that the meditation that we practice, I instill into my day. And I think this is the key thing, again, that was highlighted by both speakers before me, is that moment when I was at my mate's funeral and I was thinking, do you know what, I don't want to live like this anymore. I've had enough. And I know some people, they have that realisation a little bit too late. Yeah? Just as they OD or just as they pass on through or whatever. But luckily, I had that opportunity to do something about it. But the key thing for me, and it does take courage, but I think it also takes courage to get out of your head, to be honest. Because a lot can go wrong, can't it? And I think it's transferring that courage to actually explore who I really am. Who I really am. Not Neil, the one who's always so naughty and does this and does that, because I've grown up with all these different labels. And I was kind of fed up of living my life how everyone else kind of felt I should be living my life. And they'd already pigeonholed me. So I kind of threw that up, screwed that up, threw it away, other people's perceptions of me, and started to really go in and understand who I am. And it's something that all of us have got in common. Firstly, we all want to do something about it, or you want to help someone do something about it, which is why you're here this afternoon. So that's fantastic. That's courageous, that's good, so it makes you different. But what we've also got in common is everything you do, you're actually after something. Now this doesn't mean that we're takers, it just means that we've lost something, we're actually looking for it again. And that thing that all of us have lost is the ability to generate our own peace, happiness and love. Because these are very deep and rich spiritual experiences. These cannot be found in drugs, in drink, in relationships, in jobs. It cannot be found in anything made of matter. It's impossible. Marketing companies will have you think otherwise. Your partners and children might make you think otherwise. But don't fall for the trap. It's a con. There's only one place you can find it, and that's inside. Because what I've learned in this meditation is that we're all spiritual beings. This physical vehicle is just my vehicle. It's to get me from A to B. It's to enable me to do stuff. But you're all looking at me through your eyes. It isn't your eyes that are looking at me, is it? Yeah, subtle difference. There's a spiritual being, there's a conscious being behind those eyes, using them to look at me as I'm looking at you. But it's our souls that are connecting. It's our spirits. And once we understand this, and that love, peace and happiness are spiritual experiences, they can only be created inside. Now how do we create that? It's easy. Thought. Whatever you think about yourself, you will experience. And whatever you then in turn experience, if you experience it enough, you'll actually believe it's your reality. So if I keep thinking, I'm an idiot. Yeah, no, I really am an idiot. And then I start looking for the evidence of why I'm an idiot and listen to everyone else calling me an idiot. What am I going to feel like? Thank you. The lady at the back. Whereas if I start to think, I am peaceful. You can do it now if you want. I am. You don't need to say it out loud, say it inside. I am peaceful. I can feel the difference in the room already, can you? And this is it. This is the magic of the meditation that's completely transformed my life. From junkie, loser, no over, to now I've even got my own business. You think the banks even lent me money? Do you think they would if they knew? Well, flag that one. But if I'd gone in all ashen and out my head, with my pipe sticking out the back pocket, I don't think it would have been the same outcome. So I've completely transformed. And I haven't done it through rehab, I haven't done it with medication, I haven't done it with analysis, I haven't done it through counselling. All I've done it with is changing my thinking and understanding myself to be a soul. And also both previous speakers mentioned as well, is a connection with God. I like to call him Baba. I was brought up Catholic and God always felt, I always feel using that word, that I've been naughty. Whereas with Baba it just feels a little bit more loving. And through that connection with that meditation, because we connect through thought. Remember, whatever you think, you will start to experience. So if I start to think about another soul, another spirit, who's full of love, peace and happiness, and you might start to think it's imagination, but so is negativity. That's also your imagination. Whatever you think about becomes your experience. So it all starts off as imagination. So with the information I've received from the Brahma Kumaris, I've been able to establish myself of who I really am, and also to connect myself with Baba, who's like the ocean of love, peace and happiness. And this has made me self-sufficient. Okay, maybe my addiction now is the meditation. That's fine by me. It's not bad to be addicted to bananas, is it? No? They're good for you. And this meditation's, well, I'd like to say all bad habits have totally disappeared. I've still got to work on my addiction to biscuits. Problem is, they make such nice ones here. But slowly, I've seen a big improvement, and I'm very happy with it. My mum's happy as well, which is, I suppose, the most important thing. Thanks for listening, Mum Shanks.
So, I'm going to give you an opportunity to think, if you haven't already got some questions lined up for our three speakers here. But while you're preparing what your questions are, I thought maybe it might be helpful if I just do a short recap on what I've got out of each of the speakers here. So it's been really useful. I think one of the main things coming through for me is about the human element. It's about actually getting in touch with ourselves, again, with the deep inner self. And there was something that Simon said that reminded me of what I heard the other day. It's about making a decision. And the word decision actually derives from the word der, which means from, and size or scission, which means to cut off. and it means to cutting off from the possibility of anything else, so that the recovery really is to put one side all the previous behaviour in order to adopt a new way of life, the recovery process. And Terry spoke about, like this way of life, of transforming from not being able to be with or without a drink to actually having a spiritual toolkit that will help her go through the fear and the pain of all the problems that she was experiencing before, so that it's not about where this journey is going to be taking us, but how we're going to manage on that journey. And then, I introduced Terry by saying that she was a human at large. And then Neil reminded me that this is actually an inside job as well. So we've actually got the criminal element this afternoon as well. So, and you said that, like it's about connecting with the soul to souls. I remember that band, Soul to Soul, around about the late 80s. And you said about the thoughts, and it's about our imagination. And something else that I remember being said through my personal development years was, if it's humanly possible, then consider it within your reach. So, in that sense, if we want recovery, then presumably that's within our reach, because it is humanly possible. But since this is our Q&A session, I've just got a question for the speakers now, before I pass it over to all of you to come back in and ask questions of the speakers. And you've covered quite a lot, and I was just thinking maybe what would be helpful if there was just one thing that you could share with us that you found to be useful in helping you get started on this path. What was that one thing for you that helped you change from being how you were to that journey that you're now on today? I've got Neil. Okay.
I remember listening to a song many times by Radiohead, and part of the chorus was, "You do it to yourself, you do." I've heard it many times, and this particular day I heard it quite clearly. You do it to yourself, you do. And I think the key thing for me before I could have taken any step to who I am today is I must take responsibility for every thought and feeling, no matter how painful, no matter how much I want to blame someone else. It's not them, it's me.
Thank you.
Oh God, one thing. That's the thing, isn't it? It's hard to say one thing, but I suppose it would be the trilogy of honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. The willingness to take that leap of faith, the open-mindedness to the possibilities of what might happen, the honesty of not being, it's not about being honest with other people, but the honesty of being honest with myself, and learning how to do that. It's that leap of faith.
Thank you.
Actually, I think recovery is a gift, and I had the sense, it was in the summer of 1991, that there was a window of opportunity opened to me, and I took it. But in the early days, I'll tell you something I did which is very practical. I was told to do, and it's really good, and I still do it from time to time, is to write down 6 things every day for which I was grateful. Which might be because the electricity works, or because I had a bed to sleep in, because it keeps things in proportion. Because the trouble with the way the mind works, as Neil was saying, is the darkness just seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and the self-pity and the crucifixion addiction and if we just start now, these are 6 things that worked okay today, it just kind of keeps things grounded and in proportion.
Yeah, that's what I do last thing at night. Okay, so I think we might have a roaming mic somewhere. So if you'd like to ask a question of any of the panellists, you can either ask all 3 of them or anyone in particular you may have your question for. Then I'm going to pass over this session, really is your session, to to get some of those things that maybe you're querying, and maybe one of our panellists can help you with the answer. Then when you want to speak, you might just say who your name is, just so that we can respond back to you maybe a little bit more personally. And so this, somebody will come over to you with a mic. Anyway, I've got my first question over here, so please.
Hi, I'm Rupert. Thank you all of you. It's lovely hearing you all and your journeys. My question is probably for Neil, actually. Is it Neil? It is, yeah. When you said about escaping from me and numbing myself out, I think, like in any addiction, it is like I can see how that totally is how it is. And with meditation, how do you counteract or get past the point of the anxiety of being with yourself? Like, it's almost fearful, like, or like hyperventilation kind of. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but there is a lot of anxiety just to sit still and just to be. And like meditation is all about looking in, the very things we're not doing in any addictive behaviour.
I think it's really understanding who I am, and if I don't know if you've done the Raj Yoga meditation course.
Kind of.
Okay. I definitely recommend it, because you've got all the answers and the information that you kind of need to give you the tools to do this inner work. The first lesson is really, who am I? And I am this spiritual being. And it's very easy to theorise about it and use the words, but to experience it, it will take the rest of your life. And what happens is, and you might have this, those that practice meditation, you sit quietly and then you start to think maybe some superficial things. Like, oh, I must get the bananas, I must pop to the shops. And then the longer you sit, then other stuff starts to come up. But it's understanding that these are just layers. And it's like diving deep into an ocean. I need to get to the bottom. But it's going to take time. I've got to go through currents. I've got to dodge vicious sharks and electric eels and stuff to get to the bottom. Because deep inside of me is that love, peace and that happiness. And anything that I think is me actually isn't. It's just a habit that you've created. So it's about not dancing with that habit, it's about not being affected by it, but keep going in, keep going beyond that. Because what happens is people start to meditate, that feeling comes up and it consumes them. So it's almost separating yourself from that feeling. Yeah.
Might seem like an obvious thing, but how do you persevere? Because sometimes
with thought, it's all back to the thought, because straight away you will if you experience anxiety, you are thinking, I am anxious. So change the thought, I am peaceful. And then your habit might go, no you ain't, no you ain't, you're anxious. But I've got to keep going. No, I'm peaceful. Please anxiety, hold on. Yeah? Just don't do this out loud or in public. but do this self-talk inside. Look, anxiety, you can come back in a minute. Yeah? But at the moment, I'm practice being peaceful. And then you create stock, and then the balance shifts. But the anxiety doesn't disappear straight away. When we've got no business, I still get anxious.
For me, just to come in, one of the practical tools that I use in that situation, which does happen, is prayer. That's a personal thing for me. I have a relationship with a God of my understanding, and often what I'll do in that kind of situation, in exactly that kind of situation, is just take this away from me. I also have the option of telling my disease, my addiction, my thought processes to go away. Although I do use different phraseology, somewhat much stronger. And it's that, it's not that simple, but sometimes it is that simple. It's just that practical. Go away.
The conscious and the subconscious. The conscious deals with the outside world and the subconscious deals with the inside world. Why can't both of them communicate together?
Well, I think when we practice our meditation, they are.
But normally under circumstances they don't communicate with one another.
Yeah, which is why I have to make that time to make them communicate with each other. This is why local governments struggle a little bit, because my partner works in one department, won't talk to the other. And that's where all the problems start. Whereas if I actually make that time, and the reason they don't communicate is because they don't make time to communicate.
Because I found with meditating, especially the subconscious, it likes things like pictures it can identify with rather than words, you know. So, you know, if I've got a problem, then I can visualise it, and then it seems to work by visualisation rather than...
Yeah, which is fantastic, because even from that we start off with Om Shanti, I am peaceful, and you can create many images linked to being peaceful, and it's about stabilising the mind before I can get the two departments to link. Because deep inside your subconscious, deep inside it, is what you're after. But you've got to go through certain layers to get to it. So although it might feel they're not working, it takes practice.
It's just a question of practice.
Yeah. Practice makes perfect.
And one other thing, you were talking about thinking, we're setting ourselves up by thinking. I do my prayer meditation in the morning, but I set the day up, and I set myself a spiritual day sometimes. I don't do it all the time, I don't know why. But I can say, right, the first 5 people that drive in front of me, I'm going to let them go without swearing at them. You know? And if I've given them permission, it seems to work. You know, because I've set my mind up for the day.
Yeah, definitely.
The trouble is I don't do it every day because I still have some ego invested in it, you know. But I find it really does work if I've set or planned the day ahead.
Well, I get up early every morning, I practice meditation. I actually go to my local centre, which is a lot smaller than this one, in Chelmsford. And before I then go on to open up my business, I've travelled 8 miles to there. I then do some meditation for about an hour as a group. I get a lot of sustenance and power from it. Then I start my day. And if for whatever reason I miss that, like you said, it's like I've hidden under the duvet. My day is never as good. Never as good. Because if you make that time for yourself first, then you don't mind giving your time and energy to people throughout the day. But unfortunately, modern life is geared up. You get up in the morning, you're running around for everyone, then you get your bit in the evening for half an hour when you're so shattered, all you want to do is go to bed anyway. So we do it the other way around. We get up for ourselves first, then let the day unfold.
And Terry, can I just ask you a question? Sorry.
I think you asked one more question and then we'll let somebody else come in.
Yeah, sure. Can you explain to me how you feel the difference between spirituality and religion?
Oh, yeah. I grew up a Catholic. And I ditched Catholicism when I was about 16, and I took God with me. It was, you know, it was as simple as that. I had a belief, and it's interesting that you asked that because there's, for me, a very big difference between belief and faith. And belief is, you know, kind of the knowledge of something. So I had the knowledge of a God in my life, and my God doesn't belong to any church. My God doesn't only operate on Sundays between the hours of 10 and 11, and I don't have to say any particular prayers to my God, and I don't, in fact. Often I say, just take this away. Or, really? Are you serious? You want me to do that? Because I have a relationship with my higher power now. And the thing is that religion is something that's created by other people, and that's absolutely fine. You know, people find succor and comfort in all kinds of things, including rituals, and that's okay. I'll fight to the death for anybody's right to do what they want to do. That's not how I do it. You know, my faith is based on my belief in God. My faith is what I do. My faith is the actions I take as a result of my belief. I believe in the God that is going to look after me, that is going to love me. Therefore, I feel loved and understood and taken care of. And I don't go to church. Anywhere, ever.
Any either of you two want to say anything on that?
the best definition of spirituality that I heard from the Buddhist teacher, Tile Lama, is to say spirituality is spirit in reality. Okay? That's where it cuts ice with me. There are many ways to achieve this, of which religion is one. But it is, for me, a way. And the people who find other ways of doing it. I think there is many wonderful things in religion. It's simply why people are doing what they're doing. And I want to give you a specific example. Let us imagine we have two people praying at a mosque. Okay? One is praying out of love of their Creator, in gratitude and devotion. And actually it wouldn't matter if they were in a mosque, or in a church, or in a synagogue, or in nature, or in a temple. What is in their hearts makes what they're doing divine. And then the person next to them is praying because they want to impress their neighbours and to show how holy they are, or maybe they're scared of what their parents will say, and this is of less value. And it wouldn't matter whether they were in a mosque, or a temple, or a synagogue, or a church. It's always, why are you doing this? And that's the issue for me, not what the particular context is, what the uniform I'm wearing, what the doctrine is. Why are you doing this? And I, for example, have an aunt who is a very, very devout Roman Catholic, who is a wonderful, wonderful, shining example to Catholics, to Buddhists, to Jews, because of who she is, because of why she is. The fact she's a Catholic is irrelevant.
I think we have time for one more question. This lady out the front down here.
I'm Margaret. I'd like to ask Terry, could you say a little bit more about the 12 steps you talked about?
The 12 step...
12, yeah, I think that's what I'm...
Yeah, it's a 12-step program. There are lots of 12-step programs. The one that I subscribe to or belong to or I'm a member of is what I refer to as the mothership, because it was the first, it was the original. And it's drawn from, I don't speak on behalf of AA, I'm only a member. And I'm basically just drunk. And but the 12-step program has been drawn from many different sources and principles. It's not, many people confuse it with a Christian religion. And actually it's not religious at all, it's a spiritual program. And it's the fundamental tenets of which are unity, recovery, and service. And so it's clean house, which means I have to look at my part in all the stuff that I've done. I take responsibility for what I've done. While I believe I have a disease, a mental illness called alcoholism, the fact is that I have to take responsibility. That's not the let-out clause that I thought it was going to be. And thankfully so. What it's meant is that I've cleared the wreckage of my past. So it's clean house, trust God. So it's finding, they use the word God because, it's a name. It could be Percy, it could be, Margaret. Although I choose not to choose Margaret, because I might get confused, you see. And the final part is help others. And I was saying earlier that while as a human being I feel that because life is hard, I have a responsibility to help other people. I think that's why we're all here. The reality is that as an alcoholic, I have a special responsibility to help other alcoholics. And people who are suffering from the same disease as I, and that's part of what the 12-step program practices.
Thank you. Thank you. Right, just one quick question. Sorry, just wait for the mic.
You said is alcoholism a disease? There's some people who can drink. Is alcoholism or that kind of addiction a disease? There's some people who can drink, some people who can't.
There really aren't there. There are just some people who can pick it up and just leave half a glass. Who the hell are they? Because I don't know. I don't get that at all. I was saying to Jill on the way here, I have never in my whole life, never, ever had one drink. I haven't always got completely shit-faced every time I picked up a drink, but I have never in my entire life had one. Because for me, 3 or 4 is the equivalent of 1 to normal people. I drink lots, and I drink heavy. And so I don't, there are people who can drink, and there are people who can pick it up and leave half a glass, or say, oh, actually, I've had enough. Like, enough? What do you mean enough? What does that mean? But there are people who can do that. Alcohol comes in bottles. Alcoholism comes in my head. Okay? And when I talk about it being a disease, that's my belief. I believe that I have a mental illness around alcoholism, which is the mental obsession, which means that I'll be thinking about it in one way, shape, or form. It's not, I want to drink, I want to drink, I want to drink. It can be more subtle. It has to be more subtle than that. If I had a respiratory illness, I would cough and wheeze and have shortness of breath. If I had a digestive disorder, I might have flatulence or dyspepsia. I have a mental disorder, so it's my thoughts that are my symptom from that aspect. And so I have, my disease is, physically in my head. It's in my head, using my thoughts. So, and it's subtle, and it's manipulative, because I'm subtle and I'm manipulative, do you know what I mean? And so it's the spiritual balance. Simon talked earlier about a spiritual balance and remaining grounded on earth, and it's that gives me, and it's other people, my God works for other people, so it's those different ways of gaining another perspective when I can't trust my own thoughts.
So if you had a drink now, if you had a glass of wine
a
now,
drink?
you'd just go straight back into that guzzling mode, would you?
Oh my God! Why would I do anything else?
So all the meditation stuff won't actually bring balance with drinking habits. It'll just teach you how to cope with not drinking.
It is my belief that I will never ever be able to safely drink again. But what I have today is the freedom from really not giving a shit. Because actually, it's not what's in my glass. It can be alcohol, it can be orange juice, it can be water. It doesn't matter, it's what's in my head. And today, I don't need alcohol in my glass because I have peace and serenity in my head.
That's a good place.
Right. Yes, thank you for that. I don't know about you all, but I feel very enriched by all of those insights and contributions that we had. Can we put our hands together for our 3 panelists for me?